Hi, I'm Michelle Rowan, President and CEO of Franchise Business Review, and we have worked with over 1,100 franchise systems over the past 17 years. We get feedback from franchisees to help the corporate teams better understand what franchisees think they're doing well and where there's opportunity to improve and help franchisees continue to thrive in their businesses. We've had the pleasure of working with the Wild Birds Unlimited team since 2006. They were actually one of the first brands to jump in and start working with us, which was pretty unique back then because I think franchisors were maybe scared to hear what their franchisees had to say or weren't sure what to do with that feedback. So they definitely get some credit for being one of the first to do it. And they continually receive high scores from the franchise owners and have been on our Franchise Satisfaction Awards every year that they've participated in the research. And they're currently one of our Hall of Fame award winners as well. So what I love most about the Wild Birds Unlimited team is how into the feedback they get. When these reports come out, the amount of participation really matters to them. And even when they are celebrating the high scores, they're always looking for those areas where there's feedback where they can get better or think about things differently. So they also have one of the most aligned development, marketing, and operations teams that I've ever seen. I think it's really common to see silos with those departments within an organization. And I think that they're really looked upon in the way that they think about their brand holistically, which definitely lends to how well that they support their franchisees and their customers. So today, I am thrilled to be joined by Paul Pickett. He is the Chief Development Officer and the EVP of Franchising for Wild Birds Unlimited. Paul was actually the first full-time employee in 1989 to join the team, has over 30 years of experience working with all of their potential franchisees as they join the Wild Birds Unlimited team or brand. He manages all the real estate and legal responsibilities as well. So he very holistically knows what it takes to get up and running within this brand. And he's joined today by Mark and Danielle Motley. They are multi-unit franchisees with 2 locations of Wild Birds Unlimited stores in Mount Pleasant and Columbia, South Carolina. And I also think what I love about this story too that we'll talk about today is they purchased existing stores, which is unique and also exciting. So we'll ask them specifically about that. And Danielle was actually a manager of a store in Charleston for almost 5 years. And then they bought the Mount Pleasant store together in 2011. And Mark was a manager at Publix for 15 years and then came into the business full-time in 2015. So they have grown the business double-digit percentages nearly every year. They have gone over the $1 million mark in 2021. Was it 2021? Mm-hmm. Little praise for that one, with a huge focus on customer experience and community development. So, and I think that that's really, I think what is most important is for people looking at a franchise system to understand how important it is to get involved with your local markets. So, and they also just became owners of the Columbia, South Carolina store, bought it from the original owners in June of 2022. So let's start with how you guys support your franchise owners. I'd love to talk about the work that you do when someone first expresses interest in a Wild Birds Unlimited store. How do you start setting them up for success before they're ever even open and operating that store in their market?
Well, thanks again, Michelle. This is a great question. I think one of the first things that we are top of mind whenever we talk to somebody who reaches out to us to discuss the opportunity is that it's never a sales job. It is a education job. It's a vetting job. And when I say that, it sounds like, oh, are the franchise candidates going to be good enough for us? It's actually, is it a good match for both sides of the table? And so that educational process of making sure that they are aware of what is important for the customer. I mean, even back when we talked, I mean, there are a lot of buzzwords now about, brand reputation management, net promoter score processes and managing through that. Those are all great terms and they're really important. Basically, it's just like, what is your reputation out there? And you want to make sure in development that you're bringing in people who are aware that it's really important that that reputation stay really high and they're as committed as you are to them that they will be that committed to their customers to give a really exceptional experience. And so, well, there's obviously in the development process, there is that education of here are all the tools we provide from a communication standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a site selection standpoint, from a marketing, purchasing, operations, leadership, back of the house, accounting, all of that stuff, really, really important. And you need to share that. But at the same time, you're finding out, are they committed to the process? Are they committed to delivering, using the best practices to meet your brand standards? And are they going to get out in the community? Are they going to really do what's important? And are they going to focus on not just the sustainability of the business, but the sustainability of that customer experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, you had a dream when Danielle's already in the system and raises her hand. So you know that she knows the store, but how about other candidates? What kind of experience are you looking for? Or does it matter where they come from, what that background is?
I don't think it matters what you did. It's who you are, is what I would say. And it's, are you engaging? Are you following up on the promises that you make? I mean, it's as simple as, when you ask a question, are they giving you the answer? You can tell the answer that they think you want to hear, or are they expounding upon other experiences to really share with you what their culture of giving is, what their culture of showing up is, and engagement? Are they the people who cancel their scheduled calls all the time, or maybe don't cancel and just don't show up? What's that going to be like on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock when the store opens? Are they not going to show up? So you just watch what they do and ask questions that really get to what makes them tick and what they're looking for, and make sure that that's the right match with you, with our brand and with our culture.
Awesome. So I know that once you kind of get down that process, that they're the right people for you, you're the right brand for them, that there's a level of business planning that you have them do before they open their doors. So how about, let's talk about how that prepares them to get in the business. And then so I'm going to start with you, Paul, and then I would love for Mark and Danielle to talk about what that process was like for them. So when there is an existing store, do you have access to that information to build your business plan? Or are you kind of like, how did you actually do that? Because I think that can be daunting for a person to think about doing that before they open their doors. So Paul, if you want to start with, what does that business planning look like before they open?
One of the things that we provide is an example business plan. It has a lot of blanks. There's no financials. There are financial projection worksheets there, but it's a fully fleshed out, is it 44 pages of business plan with lots of blanks of what are you going to do locally? What are your, we require that they go out and communicate with local media organizations, that they talk about their community engagement. They talk about what attributes they're going to look for in their team members to deliver our brand promise. So it's a gigantic thing. In Mark and Danielle's situation at purchasing existing stores, they were able to get, of course, access to the P&Ls, balance sheets, taxes of the sellers, and then use those to do their projections. For a new store, they really depend on, we have, as you know, a pretty complete item 19, the financial performance representation portion, so that we give our candidates past performance, no projections and no promises, but that they can use to build that, so they really understand the metrics and what the experience has been, and hopefully what the potential is if they followed on the same path with those.
Thank you from your lawyer that you put that little caveat in, that it's not a promise of future performance. They're going to appreciate that. So Mark and Danielle, tell me what that was like when, so you were at the store, Danielle, and you decided that you were ready to become an owner. What was that process like from your side? It's something, obviously you were part of the culture, so something obviously resonated with you that this was a good opportunity for you, but tell me about that and what it was like for you guys to put together this plan for you guys to actually become owners.
Yeah, so I started working at Wild Birds Unlimited very young, like 18 years old. And honestly, as soon as I walked into the store, it was like so cliche, but it was just like a dream in there. So peaceful, it was fun, there was fountains flowing. And from that moment on, it just became more appealing because the customers were amazing. They all come in there excited about their hobby and their birds. It's a fun topic of conversation. You know, it's not like, I don't know, just food or clothing or something like that. This is these people's hobby. So I loved working at the store and hoped one day we'd have the opportunity to buy the store. And that opportunity did come up. And so just also still being young and really unprepared, I feel like the franchise did provide a lot of great tools that helped us to really plan out the future. Like it's more than just being in the store and running the day-to-day when you own it, you know? And so that was all stuff I feel like I was fairly oblivious on until we really started the purchasing process. And I mean, I still remember filling out that 44-page business plan. And it was long, but it was exciting. And in that plan, we had put in there that we would like a second store. So we're super excited to be here, having just done that a couple months ago. And so they provided that for us. We were also able to reach out to other store owners, which was huge. The great thing about the community here in WBU is everybody is really willing to share their experiences, like positive or any negative or things that they've learned along the way. So that was really helpful. And with time, we've become a training store. So we help other store owners who are looking to open up their Wild Birds Unlimited, some of them starting from scratch with no history of working in the store like I had or anything like that. And so that's kind of an honor as well to be able to work with those store owners and show them the way. And I think that I didn't need that because I came from the store, but to be able to provide that in-store training is huge, I think. So yeah, there's a lot of great resources that we were able to take advantage of and now help others take advantage of.
That's awesome. And I was going to ask you guys how accurate your initial plan was to your performance. So did you have a timeline on when you wanted that second store? Did you make or break it?
Yeah, so the timeline was like 2 years and it's 11 years later, but everything happens for a reason. And of course, I do believe there was I was a little naive going into it at first, you know, owning a business is a huge thing. At the same time that we were growing Mount Pleasant very successfully, we were also growing our family. We had 3 kids over the time of owning Wild Birds Unlimited as well. So I think all those life happenings, you know, helped to slow that down. And of course, we were looking for the right opportunity. We loved being able to take on Mount Pleasant and see opportunities for growth there. And so we were excited to be in another store with the same opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about that. So yeah.
Those darn kids, they wrecked my development plans for Danielle and Mark. Like, another baby? Okay.
I know, he's like, oh, a third. Okay, here we go.
Come on.
That's okay. They're probably future franchisees, Paul. Just got to nurture them. You've got 3 of them now.
Honestly, they were the best helpers at this new store. Like we were a little short on staff here. And when they would get done with camp, it was like, yes, our helpers are here. Okay, let's get going.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And also too, I mean, Mark, so what was the tipping point or what made you decide to leave your job to jump into the business full time with Danielle?
It was when we decided that we were having our second child. It was between hiring a nanny or hiring a manager. And we went to our accountant and said, well, what if we just made me the manager? And he said, okay, it could work, but it was a pretty significant like pay cut. But you know, we got our time back and that was pretty cool. We had not had that before, just with the demands of the retail grocery setting, just made it a little bit more difficult for that. So it was pretty cool. When they said yes, I think it was the next day, you know, you walk in, you're like, well, all right, we got 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever you need, but we're out of here. And it was, you know, before we had originally planned, but it worked. And, you know, we're unique. I think, and Danielle and I have pretty complementing strengths. So like day-to-day retail operation, I would say is my strength. And then she's got marketing, she's got service, she's got, you know, a lot, but me, the retail management is where I kind of come in That's my bread and butter.
I would also like to point out that Mark mentioned he took a pay cut, but it wasn't long before we surpassed what he was making at Publix. And now it's, it's not all about financials, but this is our business and we've grown it more than we ever thought possible for our family. So it's been so fulfilling in many, many ways, but financially being one of those.
Yeah, well, you got to take that risk, right? To get that. So it was the leap of faith. So let's talk about the marketing side of things. So you mentioned you came in at 18, you were working in a store, and then you take over as an ownership. When we look at our aggregate data from franchise owners, one of the things that comes up frequently as a low score is the marketing support or the marketing programs that they receive from the corporate office. So I don't know, Paul, if you want to start with kind of how you use what you guys do in marketing in that process with candidates, or the systems you have in place and the tools on the marketing side, and then we'll go over to Danielle and Mark to kind of talk through what they're doing, like it's part of their strategy of why they're so successful. So kind of how they worked through implementing what you guys provide for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that we obviously talk about in the development process is the marketing support that a franchisee can expect from us. Everything from, a fully fleshed out annual planner with multiple campaigns per month, with templates and strategies and how, the guidelines, the best practices for implementing it. And then we talk about the fact that birds are different. You're up in Portsmouth, Maine, Portsmouth and Kittery, and it's a different bird population going on than what's happening in Columbia, which is actually different than what's going on in Mount Pleasant. I mean, you've got coastal and non-coastal.
Wow.
That's very different than what's going on in Indianapolis. And in fact, like even my favorite example is Detroit. Some stores get hummingbirds, some stores don't, depending on where they are in the metro area. So we talk about the fact that franchisees, we have all this template, but you have to localize it. Now, there's easy buttons, and you can make, or you can go into a full playground and play and do as much as you want. We don't recommend that. Follow the guidelines, use the templates, but you do have to localize it. And that is a lot of the difference between the people who really soar and the people who have a challenging time, is whether or not they're willing to make it theirs and really resonate from their own community. And even on social media, which Danielle's an expert and a key leader in our brand, but you have to have local content, right? And you have to know your customers and what you're going to do to connect with them, following the plan, but then adding on their own way.
So I think that's what it's sometimes hard to get franchisees to wrap their head around why marketing is important or why you're spending money and how you're doing that. So Mark and Danielle, if you want to hop in here and just talk about how you use those tools and how you did figure out what you wanted to do with it to make it different or make it more authentic or unique to who you guys are and to where your store is. That would be great. Or how you decided to tackle it, or how you decide to spend your money. Are you looking at metrics? Like, how do you guys make those decisions?
Yeah, so the franchise does provide a ton of resources for the marketing. And as Paul mentioned, they do have lots of easy buttons for people. And so with all of that, also one of the good things about being a part of the franchises, they get to test these marketing practices and see how they really perform, and then tweak and then come out with them. So we are always on board with the things that they put out. As a system, they're great tools, and that's how they're made to be. But it still is important for people to know that we are locally owned and operated, and we're catering to our local birds and local season happenings, that type of thing. And so I feel like that is where the social media and comes into play the most, because you can really kind of give your customers a taste of what you're providing in store before they even come in. So I do feel like that's really important. We do track how our different marketing tactics are working. And so, we send out our postcards to our current customers. Those are very effective. And back in the day, we used to send out newsletters, and the franchise, evaluated that. How is that going? I remember when they switched to postcards, everybody was kind of like, what? But all the information, but when you see a good picture of the bird on the feeder, that tells them everything they need to know. I mean, they're in there to they're in there to buy the hobby of bird feeding, not the feeder. You know what I mean? So those postcards are really effective. We send out the email newsletters, and the franchise has a great journey program that you can opt into that just sort of, takes your customers through those promos with, email after email, not back to back like spammy, but email after email that, goes with what's going on for the month. And, but, there's times when we have to tweak those because we have in-store events for our customers. We do a lot of community outreach, and all those are things that we have the freedom to promote in our marketing materials, which is also very important.
Yeah, I love that. So you talked a little bit about the way that the brand has changed from a heavy newsletter based to more of the short emails or the postcards. What about other things around that idea of innovation that has made you guys more productive or you more successful in the store where you're seeing that increase in revenue? You mentioned in-store events. What are those like? And what are you doing for the community to find new customers and to bring those people back into your store?
Yeah, so with new customer drivers, it's a lot on the social media and through Google. Franchise does have a recommended vendor, so we advertise on Google through local act program, and that has definitely been an easy button because you don't have time to go learn about Google Analytics and all that shenanigans. So they've vetted a company they feel comfortable in us all using, and that program has brought in new business. We like to do a lot of community events and community outreach. So that's through local libraries, local schools. Our in-store presentations bring in handfuls of new customers every time we do them. Again, it's really not about just selling the bird feeder. It's selling the whole, we're here to create a community around bird feeding and the hobby of watching birds. And that's how you do it. It's not just going to be a newspaper ad out there. You have to have all that engagement and interaction with your customers and your community to really build what we hope to build.
Yeah. Well, and Paul, I would ask you, as Wild Birds was one of the innovation award winners this year, your brand was recognized for innovation. Is there anything else that you want to add as far as what you guys are doing or how you think about these things to make your franchisees more successful or more productive?
Well, I think that one of the things, thank you for that nice tee up for Location 3 and the Innovation Awards for doing what we did with our digital marketing. The timing was excellent. All of that came out right before the horrific times of the pandemic. But what it did was we were all set and poised to go. I wish I could say that I art directed that. I did not. And was just preparing for it. But we just reached out to so many people who were looking for something socially thoughtful, something to do, something to keep their kids amused, and it really, really worked well. But then we've also layered on with the connected television and doing that through a couple of major holiday gift giving seasons that has worked really well. But what I wanted to say is some of that innovation, those are great things that we've done and we're very happy, and I'm so proud of our marketing team and our franchisees for supporting it. But it's the franchisees doing new things and communicating with us. Like, talk about innovation. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but first franchisee on Instagram and using that platform to promote the hobby and promote the business, Danielle and Mark. First franchisee on TikTok, Danielle and Mark. Maybe first franchisee or closing in on Facebook and really using Facebook Live and Facebook videos, just turned into a huge best practice, Danielle and Mark. So, I mean, it's all about giving our franchisees not only and we could do a way better job of this, by the way. I mean, I think everybody has opportunity to improve, but giving them the opportunity to, spread their wings a little further in the whole marketing, and then setting up the communication so that, I mean, one of the best things is they're not doing that and then telling us about it later. They're asking us, how do you think we could best do this that we would preserve the brand reputation, using the right materials, doing it, and then scaling it. And can we do this for others and help others? And Danielle and Mark do that. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, and it's not a conversation with Paul Pickett unless there's some bird pun. So thanks for getting that in there. But yeah, so I totally agree. There are some franchise systems that are like, here's our playbook. You cannot deviate. And I would recommend that to any franchise owner their first 2 years, like follow the plan, do not deviate. But I think some franchisors embrace that conversation with franchisees to say, what are you doing or what are we not thinking about? Because they are in your markets and they do interact with your customers. So they are your best voice of the customer. So I think that that's a great thing for people looking to get into a franchise system. If that's important for them to have that creativity and that option to do things, and you got to give them space to fail, because I'm sure that not everything is a slam dunk. But everyone goes back to the Big Mac was a McDonald's franchisee invention, and that's it. Like if the franchisor is not tuned into what the franchisees are doing in their market and giving them that space, they're going to do it anyway, and you're not going to learn about the great stuff that they could share with other franchise owners. So to that end, Danielle and Mark, how are you guys connecting with your franchise owners that are in the system? How frequently or how do you connect with them as a community?
We love our sister stores and we communicate with them all on a regular basis. We do have a platform provided by the franchise called the intranet, and so we all communicate there. And as Paul was mentioning, we'll try something, and if it works well, we want others to know. A lot of times they'll highlight that, not just our stories, but others on the intranet saying, hey, this store owner tried this promotion or this way to promote, and it was very effective, and here's how they did it, and they break that down. And so I think having that platform is huge. We also call our sister stores on a regular basis, email, we're all about being friendly. Of course, we meet in person once a year, and that's the best weekend. That's the best week of my year, practically. Every time we can all get together and chat. And then, there's sometimes on Facebook groups, we'll communicate there. So there's a lot of communication. And I think that that's really key too, because you try something and it works, you can let others know, other people try it and it works for them. Then the whole franchise has something, to really grow upon. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think the flip side too, I always think it's so unique to franchising and so special that you get to connect with other people that are in the exact same business as you. So throwing out a challenge to them can help you find that solution faster, or even better yet, avoid a landmine that someone else has already kind of stepped over. So I do think, that, and I think some franchise systems don't foster that connection and that communication as well as others. And also I think it can be, especially when you're a new franchisee, intimidating to reach out and pick up the phone and ask. But I think that once you're in that network, people want to take your calls. They want to help you, because as Paul kind of started this conversation, the most important thing is for you all to protect your brand, and that protects your investment. So knowing that you can help someone else make sure that their experience in another store is similar to the experience in your store just creates that customer loyalty that you guys are so great at. So we're coming to the end of our time. Is there anything that we missed talking about all the stuff that you guys are doing to keep all the balls in the air and to keep Wild Birds Unlimited moving forward?
I think just the relationship together. It's pretty cool how well the franchise and the franchisees work together, how well the franchisees, that community is together. It's pretty cool. We've really enjoyed our time, and it's just been, it's a family pretty much. Mm-hmm. And we're all celebrating each other's successes. We are just really trying to do what's best for the brand. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. So I have been to one of your annual conventions, so I've gotten to see that in-person culture up close and personal. I've been to your headquarters, and there is something very special with your brand. And it's so great to have you guys come and tell your story and celebrate. So congratulations on store number 2. Curious if there's an updated business plan for a 3rd store. You're welcome, Paul.
Oh my gosh. You know what? We're actually loving. So yes, we hope so. Well, time will tell, but so far we're just so thrilled.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Paul, anything else from you?
One of the things that good brands should do is to help franchisees with obtaining financing. I mean, having those connections and stuff. And if I get weepy, I'm sorry, but this is one of my favorite stories of all time, is that, when Danielle and Mark were first buying, they were young, and they, younger even than they are now. And it was tough, and negotiating through some seller financing on the deal, and having that be a challenge and anxiety from the sellers, who were, I will say it were difficult in that arena, and having those conversations and making them understand the belief that Danielle and Mark had in the brand and in the business and in themselves, and getting that to happen. And then, and it was difficult. It was difficult. And having that call from Danielle saying, thank you, I just paid off I paid the debt off years in advance of the note. It's just like, there's nothing better than helping make a dream come true in just the teeny little bit that I did. But it's that belief in each other that really is important in any relationship, but I think it's so important in the franchise community.
Yeah, and we should have talked about that at the beginning, that Danielle and Mark, that you did this together, even though Mark wasn't in the business from day one, is that it's really hard if your partner or your spouse or your significant other isn't on board cheerleading you, because the days are long and they're hard. And especially if you have 3 children together too. You guys should, and I was going to make a mark about, you probably love convention because you're going without your 3 children. You get 2 nights away, but
It ain't bad. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see how successful you are, and we love it. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys all for joining us today. And again, we love celebrating Wildbirds Unlimited, all the great things you're doing for your customers and for each other within your franchise network. So thanks for sharing your story today.